Now, 9:02 here. With dangerous heat often comes heat illness, and in the most severe cases, a trip to the hospital. Joining us to talk about that is Matt Zavosky. He's the Chief Strategic Integration Officer for MedStar. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Cleo. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for joining us. How many heat calls has MedStar responded to in the past 3 days or so since the temps have really soared?
Yeah. Since Wednesday, we've actually had 48 patients with a primary or secondary heat-related illness. Of that, 32 of them were serious enough to require transport to the hospital, wow. And 6 of those patients were actually in serious condition. So it's a very dangerous time right now in North Texas, as Kyle mentioned.
So I'm learning at this point that you've actually implemented your extreme weather response procedure, and what does that truly mean?
When it gets really hot outside, we are very concerned about patients who may have minor medical issues that become a heat-related illness. So let's say you're running out on the Trinity Trail or you're doing something and you twist your ankle and you have a minor medical issue. If you're outside, normally for that type of response, we would respond non-lights and siren, and it might take us, 10, 15 minutes to get there. If you are outside in an unprotected area and the heat index is 105 degrees or higher, we're going to respond to you lights and siren to get you out of that hot environment into the nice, cool ambulance to actually prevent a heat-related illness on top of your other injury.
It's good to remind people about heat-related illnesses, and there's basically 3 according to you. And what are heat cramps, and how do we treat them?
So heat cramps is the first in the progression of heat-related illnesses, and they occur when you're exerting yourself in hot weather. Your body has been sweating quite a bit. You lose a lot of fluids, but you also lose electrolytes, primarily sodium. So your muscles need those electrolytes in order to work properly. If you have lost those because of excessive sweating and some physical exertion, then the muscles will begin to cramp. So that's the first stage of heat-related illness. So first, that should be an indication to you to stop doing whatever it is that you're doing and get into a cool environment. But generally, if that happens to you, sips of water, sports drinks are great. A lot of runners and other people will use salt tablets to help replace the sodium to help relieve those heat cramps.
Wow. How do we know if we're actually suffering from some sort of heat exhaustion, and what do we do?
Heat exhaustion is the next phase of the heat-related illness. These folks will be excessively sweating. They will get dizzy, they'll get weak. They may have abdominal cramping because of the digestive issues that will occur as well. The heart rate will also increase, so they'll have a very fast pulse. This is, again, an indication that you've gone into the next phase of a heat-related illness. So get those folks into a cool location. If it's you yourself, get into that cool location. Loosen your clothing if you can. If the person is awake enough, give them sips of water. In this case, water is the best thing. You want to start replacing that fluid. And if you need to, then you might want to wet their clothes or give them some cool cloths just to kind of lower their body temperature a little bit.
Matt, what about the most serious, like heat stroke?
Yeah, heat stroke is a serious medical emergency, and that's sort of the third stage of a heat-related illness. These folks have lost their ability to sweat. They've really sweat out everything they possibly can. So instead of being wet and cool like a heat exhaustion person might be, these people are going to be very dry. They're going to be very hot to the touch. They may actually have seizures because that becomes a rather significant medical issue, and they may complain of a headache. This is a true medical emergency. Have someone call 911 right away, move them into a cool environment right away, and these folks need active cooling. So you're going to literally put ice on them, you're going to put water on them to cool them down right away. We've had patients with body temperatures as high as 107, 108 degrees, and those people typically don't do well.
Matt, what treatments do MedStar crews administer when they're called out to a heat call?
Typically, if it's going to be heat exhaustion, it's fluids. We'll start an IV. We have really great ambulances for the North Texas heat. So our ambulances actually have 3 air conditioners in them. So we'll get them into that ambulance as quickly as possible to begin to cool them down. If they've actually gone into the the heat stroke phase, we're going to start doing some active cooling. So we're going to start an IV. We're going to cool that IV. So we actually have refrigerators in the ambulances. We can keep the IV fluids in the refrigerator and start administering a lot of cool cool water to lower that body temperature. We're going to put ice packs under the arms, around the neck where those big blood vessels are, to try and cool that person as quickly as possible.
Matt, thank you so much for joining us here on Daybreak. A lot of good information there, and we'll be sure to put it on our website at WFAA.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Cleo. Have a good day.
Thank you. Turning